Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lounge podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, Senior Lakers Insider for Clutch Points, joined on this fine Saturday afternoon by none other than my former co-host over there at Locked On Lakers, host of the LFR Pod, co-host of. Well, are you do you guys have like? Do you guys care if
No,
you're
not
like
at
the
all.
host
Not even a
and
little
he's the
bit about the title. I talked to my dude about the Lakers and people listen to it.
That is Pete Zayas of the LFR Pod. We are here on a Saturday. The Lakers took the day off, but we are not. We're on an extra day that I would not normally be working. We had originally planned to go live after the game, after Luka was hopefully going to make his debut in a Lakers uniform. The Lakers are going to be super extra cautious with him and that calf injury and have him debut hopefully on Monday. That's at least what the reports are indicating so far. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about Luka. We're going to be talking about LeBron and Luka on a court together, what we'll kind of be looking for there. Lakers also made another trade there in Mark Williams. And we're going to discuss kind of what we're hoping for from him and some of the questions about the trade as well. The Lakers, I think if things go even like realistically well, I think they're a championship contender now. And we'll kind of talk about like scenarios there. The thing that's exciting, Pete, I know he's 25 years old and they were talking about it like it's a crazy runway. I actually think they're going to be contenders over the next 3 years, at least, I think, like real contenders. And then we'll kind of see what the window looks like after that. I'll explain why. And then some housekeeping on the backside of this. The Lakers still have an open roster spot. They could waive Christian Wood at any time as well if they want to open another. And they would have some flexibility on the buyout market. So I want to talk a little bit about what we're hoping for and maybe expecting in that regard as well. A quick reminder, please do hit that subscribe button. If you guys are tuned in right now on Twitter, head on over to youtube.com/@LakersLounge to follow the show there. And then if you guys are listening to this in its audio form, hit that subscribe button, 5-star reviews, yada, yada, yada. Let's dive in. Pete. I actually just want to put myself in the room with you when the trade went down because it was a whirlwind of emotions. So we're like, how'd that go down in the Zayas household?
It's so funny you bring this up. I think I had somewhat of an opposite experience of almost everyone else. As you know, I'm not on social media a ton these days. And the Lakers had legit 20 minutes before just gotten a great win against the Knicks. And so I'd been doing my playback. Usually after playback, I make myself dinner. That was an especially fun game. So that becomes like the ones that are kind of stinky. It's like, let me eat dinner, recompress. I'll watch some tape before I go to bed if I have to. And I will.
Yeah.
That was all right, let's eat dinner and watch the tape at the same time because that was freaking great. And so I'm having
I think that's the most fun win nobody has ever spoken about.
Exactly, right? And so it's such a blast of a game. And so I'm eating my dinner. I'm sitting where I'm sitting right now, and I'm watching tape of the game, kind of, it's not like my hardcore tape watching, but it's just on in the background as I eat my dinner. And I get a text that says, "It's real." And I go, "What is it? What is the it that you're referring to that is real?"
That win. It really happened.
He goes, "Look at Shams' tweet."
Yeah.
And I see it. And so remember when he tweeted that, the almost universal reaction was he got hacked. This can't be. It was so outside of the box.
I was talking to people in the Lakers organization asking like, hey, like, can I verify this? Can I confirm this? And they're like, we don't know.
Yeah.
That's crazy to us too.
Bolt of lightning, right? And so anyway, as I'm looking for the Shams tweet there, like, I know that it's real before I know what it is. And so I look at it knowing that it's real.
Yeah.
Imagine how that felt. That was my experience with that.
Something's real. Whatever I'm about to see is real. Despite that, did you still think, like, after you read it, you're like, no way?
I couldn't form words or thoughts, like my brain was, because it was a good enough person to be like, I knew that it was real. And it was, I had known the Lakers had designs on Luka in this like grand, big picture, next superstar, yay, hope we can get him type of sense. But never in a million years would I have thought it was going to be this deadline. So just crazy, man. Franchise changing.
The Lakers have had their eye on him, right? Kevin O'Connor kind of mentioned it in passing. There's been some stuff about like, hey, what comes next? And there's been some like, I wouldn't call it optimism. Hopetimism is what I would maybe call it, like just kind of like, maybe, yeah, maybe.
And I had given up a lot of those hopes, Anthony, when they went to the finals last year, right? I'd been telling people a couple years back, like, root for the Porzingis thing to fail, hope that Luka and Kyrie doesn't work, because maybe, Luka can make his way over there. But I'd kind of given up hope after the finals run last year.
And then here we are. And he is a Laker. He and LeBron, again, set to make their debut hopefully Monday. It's not going to happen today. AD is making his debut today. Quick, side note, really quickly. We're about to see one of the ugliest scenes, I think, in a long time. They're in Dallas, both like inside and outside the building. It's going to be loud and angry and Southern angry. There are it's been really kind of annoying because ESPN, and look, I get it, like Nico getting death threats and stuff like that, that's too far, and like the racial undertones of it has also been kind of gross to watch too. But every time they mention like how unsafe this is, it's always as it pertains to like ownership and Nico and all this stuff. It's like the players are going to be out there in pajamas basically, and they're the ones who are going to be like, they're the face of this mistake for 48 basketball minutes. So I really, really hope, no chance whatsoever that any of them are paying attention to this right now. But I really, really hope that like Anthony Davis and Max Christie and to a lesser extent, Caleb Martin and the rest of that Mavs roster understands that vitriol that is going to be pouring out over the court is not for them personally. It's for the idiot who made the mistake, right? And like, I think people have gone a little overboard. I think it's funny. Like, people have gone overboard on both sides. You've had people like Chuck and Stephen A. and all those people who've been shitting on Anthony Davis the entirety of his time in LA, who are now like, actually, he's an MVP candidate.
They know who Max Christie is now too, apparently.
Yeah, right. Yeah, before he was Mike Whiskey, and then now all of a sudden he's Max Christie. He's also been fun to watch him play really well. But like, the other end of it too is like, this is the dumbest trade of all time, and I had no idea what they're doing. It's like, yes, down the road we'll probably look back on this as a big whiff, but right now I think they'll still be fine. And I think Anthony Davis has been pretty disrespected throughout this entirety. Where he's been used disingenuously to shit on the Lakers on one end, and then he's been considered one of the worst trade pieces coming back ever. It's like, all right, we just suck at this apparently. But I really hope though that because I know Anthony Davis is a very introspective and I don't want to say emotional because that has negative connotations, but he takes that stuff in, and I really hope that he's able to separate himself from Nico's decision. Today's gonna, I don't know. I've decided, I've been going back and forth as to whether or not I'm actually going to watch, just because I know how ugly it's going to be. But yeah, I feel bad for AD in this spot. It's an impossible spot.
Me too. And we talk about this a lot, Darius and I, about how AD is often discussed through what he is not, rather than what he is.
Yeah.
And this is just another circumstance that
now he's not Luka.
He's not Luka Doncic. What an asshole,
right.
And so I really hope that he was talking about trying to win over the hearts of the fans, and I think they will, right? With the level of defense that he can play. He's such a great player that if he's on your team, you watch him very quickly. And we saw this with Max over the last couple of games. They're watching him going like, this kid's kind of awesome. Like, yeah, much more valuable than the 2047 first round pick that you've been planning for. And so, yeah, I hope, but it's such an uphill battle. And it just is such the story of AD's career of, being evaluated through not being quite what everybody wants him to be while also being phenomenal.
Yeah. weirdly, I'm actually pulling for the Mavericks this year just so that he has a positive experience for the rest of us. The NBA is wrestling sometimes, so I totally see the Lakers and Mavericks meeting in the playoffs. Like I'm almost like 80% sure that that's going to happen. But anyway, let's talk about Luka and LeBron. My favorite take in all of this has been, boy, how are Luka and LeBron going to figure out how to play basketball together? And it's like, we've done this with how many straight great players that LeBron has played with, right? It was Wade, and then it was Kyrie, and then it was AD, and now it's Luka. And it's like every single time before this, he has figured it out. And now this is the easiest one to figure out because he gets to do the small things. Like he gets to do, you made a great point on your show the other day. It was like, I can't wait to watch LeBron with energy on defense, not having to be the engine and rudder of the offense. And like that, like there are, I think, valid concerns about the defense. But what we've seen recently with the Lakers defense is that it's very wing driven. It's very perimeter physicality driven. And then if it does get to the paint, those guys, when they finally get to the paint, are off balance because they're getting mugged the whole way there. And I'm really I'm really looking forward to like what that looks like. But the Luka LeBron combination, is it as simple as just like 2-man game between the two of them, or do you like, how would you go about maximizing those two on the court together?
Honestly, I'm still so shocked by it that it's funny. This is not a particularly complicated question, and yet I think there are so many different things that you can do that you span giving them the ball, which is basically how we've played in a lot of against switches, especially. And so much of our stuff is horns or double drag screens at the top of the key or high post splits, or again, clearing out a side of the floor for one of the stars. It's fairly simple basketball with some nice ATOs mixed in here and there. And I've just loved their level of execution on both ends of the floor. What they're doing off of the ball in the post has been much better as of late. But really, he fits right in. I mean, it's Luka Doncic, man. Like, I don't think people realize this is one of the best human beings that's ever played basketball.
Yeah.
Especially on the offensive end. We could talk overall type of player, but if you just limited it to the offensive end of the floor, it's a very short list of people. And that are ahead of him. Yeah, he's a prodigy.
Like he's not the normal 25-year-old. Like my favorite stat when he was coming to the Lakers was like, of all of the players currently playing who have made 5 All-NBA teams, all of them are like mid 30s to, in LeBron's case, 40. And then there's Luka, who is 25.
Yeah. He's watching tape on him. He is a constant assault of hesitations and shot fakes and stop starts and hang dribbles. Like, he is attacking you 5 times a second in a lot. That's an exaggeration, but a lot of the moves. And he's got the skill to capitalize on any little window, whether it's a shot or a pass off of that.
Yeah.
And so in thinking about how do you make the LeBron and Luka combination work together for the short term, I think they'd be wise to keep it simple. This is such a massive move, Anthony, that integrating, it's different if you have a training camp and 6 to 8 months of basketball ahead of you. I think they need to keep it relatively simple and give Luka the ball the vast majority of the time. This is my high level. I know this is why you bring me on, is to provide hard hitting analysis. Yeah. And then
actually, Darwin would be here. Like, hold on.
And it frees up LeBron to be the complete basketball player that he is. But that's such an important job that if nobody else is doing that job, LeBron has to do that job. And Austin's been very good. He wasn't good in the Golden State game, but overall, he's been superb adjusting to this point guard role. But I've always felt that there was kind of a ceiling on that deep in the playoffs is Austin, with Austin as your number 2 on the perimeter. Of course, we had AD as the actual number 2. Now and LeBron can be on the ball, but he can also be a screener. He can be a shooter. He can be a cutter. All of this, the attention is going to be elsewhere. will there be some degree of feeling things out? Like I could see Luka stepping into the situation, not wanting to step on LeBron's toes, and maybe being a little too deferential early on. I personally hope he comes out and being like, I'm going to score 60 in this first game because we're playing Utah.
I wish we were playing Dallas the first game just so that like he would just like see red.
Speaking of Anthony, this is not good for me. That might be the most petty player in the NBA we just traded for. What's the movie? Is it the Willem Dafoe movie where he's got the mask, like telling him to do evil shit?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, no, I don't know. Is that Spider-Man? Yeah. That's how I feel right now with the pettiness of Luka joining the Lakers. This is very bad for me. But that's what I'm hoping for with Luka is that he's ready to
like
kill everyone.
Petty Pete's my favorite Pete.
It's not a good Pete, man. I don't want to be that. But people seem to enjoy it.
We're looking for growth, but like if you dip into it every so often, that's fine. Like I just accept it. Like I know who I am as a person, and like I've done growing at this point. I'm a father of two. They're the growth, but I'm so fascinated because the 3-man stuff that the Lakers were running when AD was still here with Austin, LeBron, and AD as the centerpieces of that was basically unstoppable. And that was with Anthony Davis as I feel like Shams has reported that Ben Simmons has been looking for a buyout like 7 different times. Rich, just tell me when he's gone. But so I like that really worked because all of those guys are really good in the roles that they were handling in those 3-man sets and stuff like that. In this case, I can't wait to watch 3-man stuff with Austin, LeBron, and Luka because they can all kind of rotate. Like you said, you made the point a second ago, and you said you were exaggerating with Luka attacking you 5 times a second, right? 5 different ways. It feels that way because he can do literally everything. Like when you're guarding Luka, you have to be cognizant of the jab step back into a shot from 3-point range. You have to be cognizant of the fake jab step, kind of like change up, go move, that he can do. Mm-hmm. And then at any point, it doesn't matter how fast he's moving. He has the best breaks in the sport. So he can just stop. So like when you're a defender, it just feels like he's, doing everything everywhere at once, and it's just, that's how those sets I feel like are going to feel because if it's Austin starting with the ball and then it's LeBron as a finisher, well, he's also one of the best passers ever. Yeah. So defenses have to they can't just sell out the way that they were with AD, where if AD was on the finishing end there, you knew he was going to finish. Like he might make a very practical pass to the corner or something like that. But throughout the entirety of the time that those 3 are involved in the offense, the defense has to be worried about every inch of a basketball court. And I can't wait to watch to see, just see what that looks like.
Give me 1 sec, Anthony.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and filibuster here a second. And the part of this that is just so wild to me is we're concerned about all right, I hope Luka doesn't step on LeBron's toes, but LeBron's an incredible scorer. So even if he does, if he's passive and he tells, LeBron, hey, go out and do this thing. We just watched LeBron drop almost 40 points the other night. So it's if he's I'm a little nervous about this. LeBron, you go ahead and do this. LeBron can be like, okay, I'll do it this time. But we got to actually, get you on the right page here. Pete, you're muted. But what do you think though about the notion of defenses having to be aware of every inch of a basketball court?
Yeah, that's what I'm so excited about. I would throw Mark Williams into that 3-man game you're talking about as well as an option in terms of rolling to the basket and the amount of pressure that you can put on there. Prior to this pod, I was watching a clip of JJ Redick and LeBron James discussing how to guard Luka Doncic.
Yeah.
And it started with Redick asking LeBron a question, giving him sort of a pop quiz of what do you think the most effective way to guard Luka in the pick and roll is? And the way that LeBron rationalized it out, and they gave him 3 broad options. You can cut pick and roll coverages up into 11 different ways, but this was basically the main 3 or 4 ways was, switch, drop, or blitz were the main three.
Yep.
And so LeBron was like, well, switching is a terrible idea, and talked about the reasons why. And then drop is a terrible idea. And so he guessed blitz just as a process of elimination, which was the correct answer. And that covering every inch of the court, this is what the Lakers could do that Dallas could not, is that 4-on-3 that goes out of that. And like Lively, for example, is a really good 4-on-3 passer and player on that. That might be LeBron James.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? On the 4-on-3.
Well, like it was the play that stands out to me where I think he and Luka really realized that was the and one that he had. I think it was against the Clippers in the first game that Luka was there, like watching. LeBron got that and one. Zubac's like contested him at the rim, and LeBron, like, they both, I think, light bulb moment at the same time. We're like, this is what that's going to be like every single time that we run any kind of a pick and roll. Is I get to have this giant runway, because like when it's a Derek Lively, when it's an Anthony Davis, when it's a Daniel Gafford, when it's like those kinds of centers, what the defense basically has to do is wall off the basket, right? Hope that you force those guys into a floater. Best case scenario there is that those guys take that floater. Eventually it'll be like that with Mark Williams. Is hope, like, the defense basically is going to guard that pick and roll, and they're going to build a wall around the basket, and they're going to hope that Mark Williams takes that floater. But when it's LeBron James, they can't build that wall off there around the basket, because they have to have active hands, knowing that he's going to be looking for shooters in the opposite corners, both corners, not just the one that he's like, you know, he gets the pick and roll and he's going in this direction, and he's going to look in the corner that's already kind of in his line of sight already, but he's going to be able to make the swing pass to the opposite corner too. That's so right. Both sides of the key have to have their hands out here like this, and they aren't going to be leaning like build wall here. It's going to be like, please just screw up, LeBron.
Well, and
he won't.
He won't. And this is part of the, you know, the old saying, the ball moves faster than the players can. The very nature of the superstardom of Luka and LeBron are both, this is arguably the highest level of passing that two guys have been at the same time. I asked a question on Blue Sky the other last night of who are and I pose this to you, who is the best duo teammate of passers that have ever played together at the same time? So as you chew on that, I'll go over a couple of the answers. One of them I thought was an interesting one was Kidd and Nash, which on paper, looking back on it, totally makes sense. But Nash barely played on those teams. He wasn't even the second. That
was not Steve Nash that we're thinking of.
Exactly. Right. And so, and one of the other answers that I liked, it sort of applies to that as well, is LeBron and Rondo, where I get that, but again, that's not like height of his powers. It wasn't
peak Rondo either.
And which isn't to say that this is peak LeBron, but in terms of as a passer, these are two superstars, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm straining to come up with guys who were like that caliber of player.
I think Kobe Powell.
But is that LeBron Luka just from a passing standpoint?
Oh, no, they're not better than them. I'm saying like the duo that comes to mind. And actually, like, you know, Powell, you know, that like trio, like what made those Lakers teams so much fun was that between Kobe, LeBron, and Powell, there was always a really good passer who was bigger than the person that they were going to be making passes. And this is the part of it, like, even when you mentioned Steve and Jason or like LeBron and Rondo is a traditionally sized point guard. The thing that's going to make LeBron and Luka so difficult, and I think they mentioned this on that podcast where they were talking about Luka, JJ, and LeBron, is that like you can't quite blitz Luka because he's tall enough to just throw the ball over the top of the trap. And you have two guys here who are not just elite passers, but they're also huge, and they could throw every single pass to break any kind of defense.
And I would point out too that especially LeBron has been in that position so many times that Luka will be in. He's going to start cutting a half second before, because he's going to see that passing window, see that passing angle. He'll look at that and be like, "Oh, I've been in that situation, 10,000 times,
right?
And I cut now, I get a dunk along the baseline." You think Luka's not going to see him?
Yeah, it actually kind of reminds me a little bit of early on in the Marc Gasol season where Marc was actually ahead of LeBron on some reads. And it was so funny to watch LeBron kind of be like, oh
this
my
is
God.
awesome.
Like, this guy, because he threw, I think it was like a high post pass or a pinch post pass that like Marc threw, or no, Marc got the ball at like the elbow and he led LeBron to the basket and LeBron was like a step late on it. And I think LeBron looked at Marc and he was like,
that's my bad. Yeah.
Hold on.
I remember that. I think he nutmegged a guy or something like that. And like,
yeah.
He caught LeBron by surprise and he was like, yeah, that was my bad.
Right. I swear to God, if Marc never gets sick, I think that's a very different season that they play out that year. But yeah, I think actually Marc and LeBron is a decent example of this. But no, they are the best duo of passers, especially at their respective places in their careers as passers ever. Yeah. And what that's going to do but the other thing too that makes them so dangerous, and part of the reason I brought up Kobe is that like Kobe was an elite basketball mind. He was obviously hardwired to score. But my favorite Kobe games were actually the ones where he would throw a middle finger to Phil and just like have 17 assists, you know, and the Lakers would always win those games by like 30. But like this is one where you have two incredible scorers, right? LeBron, greatest scorer of all time, and then Luka is maybe the best like versatile scorer of his era so far. And they're also that kind of great passer. So again, it's just the idea of like the way that I always think about basketball, especially playoff basketball, is boxing. And like the scariest, when I used to box, the scariest kind of boxer to throw wasn't the guy that had like the crazy haymaker or anything like that. It was the guy who could throw jabs. He could throw uppercuts and punches out to the side. Like he could throw everything at you. Those are the boxers that like absolutely drove me nuts. And like that's exactly what this defense is going to be. So a boxer who's standing in front of you and at 0 point whatsoever are you ever comfortable, because he's like one combination from knocking you on your ass every time down the court.
And I think the Lakers have some exciting finishers around that. Like Rui, for example, is someone where if you can get him a comfortable shot with his feet set, or he can roam around the baseline as everyone else's eyes are elsewhere, he's a superb finisher if you can get him good shots. One of my concerns with Rui prior to the Luka deal was he's super efficient on offense. He just doesn't get much volume. It's like 5 for 8 is fantastic. I just would love that to be 7 for 12. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, exactly. Yeah.
And that is that, but that is more of a commentary on your shot creation, because Rui's not as much of a guy that you throw the ball to and say, hey, go get us a shot. And so Mark Williams is a phenomenal finisher. He's in like the 93rd and 95th percentile, I think, in terms of roll man frequency, cutter frequency. He's a guy that's going to like constantly pressure the front of the rim and has great hands, can kind of like tip the ball to himself, just access to a lot of passing windows. That
he has an underrated second jump too, which allows him to like take advantage of those offensive rebounds that he grabs.
Yeah, so you can't switch against the Lakers. No. Luka's going to carve it up, and when he misses, you've got your guard boxing out Mark Williams. Good luck.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can defend anyone, Anthony, but I mean, I think we should score a lot of points.
See, the defense, all right, 2 reasons that I think the defense, it won't be good. It's if they win a championship, they'll be the worst defense to ever win a championship. But it's like you won a championship.
Sure.
But like I think the 2 reasons that I'm a little bit more optimistic about the defense than most is, one, I don't think we can analyze Mark Williams as a defender on the Charlotte Hornets. Like, not only did he not necessarily have the best personnel on the perimeter to try to defend and all of that stuff, but it's also like we saw this with Kuz, and we saw this with Jordan Peele. No, not Peele. Poole. But like both of those guys went from championship atmospheres and were winning players in championship atmospheres, and it took all of like 3 weeks with the Washington Wizards organization that hasn't cared about winning over the course of my lifetime, right? Like they've had a couple runs here and there, but it was always kind of like, yeah, if we're okay, if we challenge LeBron, good, we'll take that playoff revenue, and that's it. And the Charlotte Hornets aren't even that like they aren't even that competitive. So like with Mark Williams and like him as the anchor on the defense, that certainly makes me nervous. He has bad habits he has to break and then relearn better habits in the course of a few months here. So do I think he'll be good defensively this year? Absolutely not. But the two things that the other part of this is that like we've seen this Lakers team without Mark Williams, without Anthony Davis, like without Luka, suffocate teams. The New York Knicks never looked comfortable. Jalen Brunson played really, really poor. The Clippers, you had James Harden go 2 for 12 against the Lakers the other night when they beat them. And then the Golden State Warriors, the Lakers forced Steph into 6 for 20 from the 3-point line. He got so desperate, he couldn't break that. He couldn't pierce that outer shell that he just started firing away from three. And like, I have always been, it's probably annoying to my audience at this point, how much I talk about wings, but I really think if you have solid wings as your worst defenders, as the Lakers do here with Rui, and then you have guys like DFS and you have guys like Jared Vanderbilt, they are going to make every kind of player elsewhere better defenders. And because they, it's not just about like the guy who's guarding the ball, it's that you have a ton of length and athleticism at every other position, so that it like creates this, like you're trying to get to the basket and you're going through these really thin hallways to try to get there. And I think it makes it'll make Williams a better rim protector, and it'll kind of help with Luka. And then the final point here, the Lakers offense is going to be so great that the other team's going to be taking the ball out of the rim very often, and it allows that defense to get set up. So I don't think they'll be good defensively, but I also don't think they'll be a disaster.
So two things. I want to start. I love your point about the shell of defense on the perimeter and how it's about sort of puncturing and containing that. Mm-hmm. And the importance of length and wings with length within that sort of framework. And so, the Lakers do have enough in that respect, and you have to be a switch and contain style of defense, and scrambling in a way that foot speed matters a lot as well. And so like that Gabe, Vando, DFS trio, that is going to be a big part of keeping teams out on the perimeter and, being able to seal things out there. The part that I push back a little bit on with Williams is I had the same, you can't really judge players defensively in Charlotte. That of course is going to, that's true, right? That is the background of this. I believed that less after watching tape.
Okay.
And so
tape was that bad, huh?
It was like, do you remember how frantic Thomas Bryant used to be on defense?
Yeah. Or like Amel Traore. He's just like,
there's like a level of, he's young. And so Williams has attributes that I think he can become a very good defender. I think that he will have defensive flashes. He's got a 9'9" standing reach, as we all know, that of course that's going to come into play. And I think the Lakers can help develop him on that end of the floor. But there were enough plays where it wasn't like, this guy isn't mentally checked out per se. It's his technique's kind of rough. And so or he read the play a little bit late, and maybe that is being mentally checked out, right? You aren't on top of it. But there were enough possessions where I thought he was trying to be good on defense, but was not good on defense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's such a big man that if he moves out onto the perimeter to say contest a shot or something like that, it takes an extra half second to get the semi truck moving in the other direction. Right.
His what I will say, like, because I went and watched some tape, and the thing that stood out to me is like his fundamentals defensively are really lacking, right? Like when you're that big, you have to be incredibly sound. There's when the bigger you get, the more wasted movement has an impact on what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish. And he has so much extra wasted movement that like it really kind of throws him off, to your point. Like he does this thing that I noticed where like rather than timing as a player is coming to him, rather than timing his 1-2 jump to try to get up there and elevate straight up, he kind of like chops his feet a little bit, and it forces his butt out, and it makes his jump more like, rather than going straight up like this, it sends him almost like two directions at once. It's super awkward.
It is
it's
weird,
like his butt's going up this way and his front's going over here, and it's just like he's not as effective as he should be with that giant frame.
Bingo. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. That's not a Charlotte thing. That is mechanics, technique, fundamentals type of thing that you can work on. And what happens, this is part of what bothers me about the American development system, especially, is that you find kids with the physical attributes of a Mark Williams. And a lot of people, I feel like, and I don't know his story, this could be totally unfair, this is a general type of statement, seeing a lot of Jackson Hayes is another player like this, where it's like nobody taught them some basic things that would help them quite a bit, or certainly didn't spend enough time on it. But it's sure great having them on your team in AAU, or you know what I mean? Where I just feel like a lot of the development system leaves big men, especially, in this place where you actually don't have a lot of the fundamentals that really young players often have in these, and you see it in these super talented players, which you wouldn't expect. But I don't know. I just feel like not everyone's doing the kids a service.
No,
you know?
Well, it's like, the person actually, if Stu Lance was on this podcast right now, he would just be like pounding his desk, like, yes.
He used to do Pete Newell's big man camp. Pete Newell was rest in peace. Was a great coach who he was an assistant for his, I think he did 1 or 2 years as a head guy, but he would do Pete Newell's big man camp every summer. And all the bigs in the NBA they'd learn footwork and all of that. And it was great. It's like, that educational type, and Stu would work that camp. And so this particular topic, Anthony, is very close to his heart, of like bigs with trash fundamentals at certain things. It drives him crazy.
It drives him insane. It's he's I love Stu. Like, he's nearing the end, I think, obviously, right? And like, I'm gonna miss him when he's gone. And one of the things that I'll miss the most is how clearly and audibly, and sometimes visibly, annoyed he gets when he sees a big man who doesn't have fundamentals. He just gets so angry.
It might be second to not defending the inbound passer correctly. We should do that one of these days. We should
like the Stu Lancisms,
the things that annoy Stu. I'll talk to Trudell. I know he's got a good list.
So what do you think of the team's ceiling this year? I think a championship is like so before the trade. It's funny because if they would have kept AD and Max and then just traded for Mark Williams, I'd be like, I think they could win a championship. Like, I think I definitely think so. Now I feel that way too, for different reasons, obviously, because you're attacking teams very differently. But I think, like, even an 8.5 out of 10 type season could result in a championship. Before, if you were going to win a championship, it was going to take a 10 out of 10.
I was viewing it, to make a poker analogy, the other version, the other reality I thought we were going to live was, we're going to have to hit an inside straight. Yeah. And we're going to have to just draw that card. It didn't have to be perfect necessarily, but a lot of things would have to go right and click into place in a way that I still think next season would be a better chance, because you'll have an opportunity to form a roster that's conceptualized around this duo. But I don't feel it's as much of a Lakers have to hit an inside straight. I don't think they're the favorite, but I do think they've been vaulted into that contender status. Yes.
Yeah. The other thing too is, like, I hate the cliche of, oh, so-and-so doesn't want to see, teams don't want to see so-and-so team in the playoffs. I just think that gets overused. That's what basically people see, names that they recognize on a team that's going to the playoffs, and they don't know what else to say about a team. In this case, it's actually true, because, like, the Oklahoma City Thunder do not want to see Luka in a series. They definitely don't want to see Luka and LeBron in a series, because it mitigates all of their strengths.
Bingo.
They're the best modern defense I've ever seen, but the way that they shut teams' water off, the Lakers aren't really all that worried about it,
because it's so ball pressure dependent. And if you've got enough guys, and Dort is a monster on the perimeter who actually gives Luka some issues.
I think you could press charges on how he defends people sometimes.
That's part of great defenders. They build that reputation and then they start getting away with even more. But there is a certain run out of guys element to a Luka LeBron combination where it's like Dort can't guard both of them at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they've got other guys who are in a very good ball pressure team, but they're not ball pressure LeBron good. Nobody is. These are the natural kryptonite to ball pressure. Are 6'8" dudes with strength.
Yeah.
That
Mike Garcia's favorite player, right?
That's
right. For a reason.
And it is.
Yeah.
Yes. And so there's a power, but also having a level of ball handling where pressing up like that, the reason everybody doesn't do that is because you're offering that containment that we were talking about a moment ago with the Lakers defense. Your defense is going to get punctured. They're going to attack that pressure, and now you're in rotation. Good luck. And so
well, and it's like they're underratedly small. OKC on the perimeter. Dort is thick. He's impossible to move, but he's only like 6. He's not tall. Like he's not LeBron Luka tall. LeBron is like a legit 6'8", 6'9" guy who has been like written down a little bit over the years in terms of how big he actually is. Luka also is huge. Like there was the moment where LeBron made the 3 the other night and he's walking off the court and he and Luka kind of like bump chests and they're like the same size, very different builds, obviously, but same size. And like, yeah, it doesn't matter what they try to do. What OKC tries to do with their ball pressure, Luka can go around you. LeBron can go through you. Both of them can throw passes over the top of you. And then the thing that I'm honestly like, I think people have gone a little overboard. I initially thought maybe Austin should maybe move to the bench just for continuity's sake with the second unit. But the more I kind of think about it, I can't wait to see Austin as the swing decision maker. Like
exactly that. Yep.
You have an incredible guy, like a really good catch and shoot threat who has a really like quick basketball IQ. It's not like there are guys who have really good basketball IQs, but it takes them a bit of a second. My favorite example of the kind of thinker that I'm thinking of is Lonzo, who like as the ball was in the air, you could always see him kind of like looking off to the side and he's taking a quick picture of what the court looks like. And then he's going to pick apart the court that he saw. Like, I think Austin can do that to a lesser extent than Lonzo, but I think he's a good, quick decision maker that way. And then again, just like with LeBron and Luka, as that swing decision maker, he has every tool that you would want. You want him to attack a closeout, he can attack a closeout. You want him to knock down the jumper, he can knock down the jumper. Quick swing pass to the corner there, he makes that pass there. His favorite pass, I think, right now is the one where he kind of takes a couple dribbles in, brings in that corner help defender, and then kicks out really quickly to the corner shooter on the same side. The only pass that I get a little nervous with him is the skip pass because, it's not the best technique that he uses on those passes. But overall, like, I think, weirdly, the player that benefits most in all of this is probably Austin.
Yes, especially from an efficiency standpoint.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose what he had going, though, and I don't think the Lakers will. And we think of basketball so much through the starting lineup type of lens or the star duo type of lens, but there's this whole middle part of the game where one of Luka or LeBron is going to be out of the game, and you need that having that second guy on the court. You think of the builds that have been around Luka; it's been Luka and Brunson, Luka and Kyrie, Luka, Brunson, and Dinwiddie. Mm-hmm. There's been this sort of stacking of guys who can run your offense and creators. And it's part of the reason why combined with the short runway that they have in terms of getting used to each other, I think they should keep it simple, stupid, give Luka and LeBron and Austin the ball. And during the starting lineup, I think Austin's going to be more of that off ball guy. But by the same token, who the heck's going to guard Austin if you've got those other guys who are normally good at that guarding Luka and LeBron? So there's going to be plenty of opportunity for Austin to cook. And I just don't want the Lakers to lose that. And I think that he'll be able to move to that on-ball role a little bit more in the middle portion of the game. But I think this accesses Austin's versatility, which you're basically alluding to, as an offensive player where he can be on the ball, but also be off of the ball. And he reads, I was talking earlier about how LeBron can look at the position that Luka's in and be like, oh, if I cut here, I'm going to get a dunk.
Yeah.
Austin is great at that. And especially he reads when to attack a closeout or hit the hole, hit the gap in the defense. He sees that very fast. And there's going to be a lot of those gaps.
I don't know what teams are going to do with the Lakers offensively. I have no earthly idea. Really quickly, type of buyout player that you're interested in.
Oh man,
does it matter to you? Like I'm at the point. It's really nice that the Lakers are basically at the point where it's like that is window dressing. It's not a hard need that the Lakers are filling.
Which is good because as a first apron team, they're only eligible to sign players who make the MLE or less, which is like $12.8 million. So the buyout market, for one, is determined by who gets bought out. And we don't know who that's going to be. I don't think anyone of significance has been as of yet. And so the players that you hear rumblings about, you could take Bruce Brown, Malcolm Brogdon, Lonzo obviously just signed an extension, Simmons. I don't know who else I'm thinking. Lakers aren't eligible to sign any of those guys.
And I also think fewer of those players are taking buyouts. Like those kinds of in this new CBA where free agent money is really difficult to come by for that mid-tier free agent. All of those guys are like, we just heard there was a Jake Fisher report that Bruce Brown and the Pelicans are actually talking about the next contract after this one, because agents are telling their guys, do not get to free agency. Gary Trent Jr. is the example, right? Like D'Angelo Russell had to opt into his contract last year. So all of these guys, once you take a buyout and sign a minimum contract, you now have to prove to the rest of the league that you're not a minimum guy anymore. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, you're doing that in this new CBA world where it's like everybody is pinching every single penny that they can.
That's a great point. Yeah. And so all of that combines for me to have very low expectations of the relevance of the buyout market for the Lakers. I do hope a player emerges. And if anybody did, I'm looking for a max replacement. Ideally, that's sort of and I agree the Lakers are championship contenders. I also think that in a playoff series, teams will really zero in on your weaknesses and hammer it over and over again. And I think the Lakers have enough of them to have some questions, but I don't see them being eligible to sign anybody who makes a salary that's good enough to make the Lakers rotation in the playoffs. So all in all, I would keep expectations low for the buyout market.
Yeah, the kind of guy that they're going to sign is a guy who like comes in and has a really surprising stint in the playoffs, but you don't really want to see him in the rotation all that much, right? Think like the Lonnie Walker, the fourth game, he's a Lakers legend now because of that run that he had or whatever. But I don't think you want a Lonnie Walker in your rotation. The kind of guy the guy that I really like is Jaden Springer from Boston. Mm-hmm. Asked around, and like essentially what it sounds like the Lakers are going to do here is take their time, see who's available, go the 10-day route, see how many guys that they could bring in and get a look at. And then if they find if somebody really wows them over the course of that 10 days, then they'll go after that. Basically, the options that they're weighing are like, do we want to sign a guy on to the rest of the season, or do we want to keep that roster spot open for Koloko to be able to convert him later in the year? And if they do decide to do the Koloko thing, you could always just waive Wood. They have plenty of room under the second apron to be able to just se vaya con Dios to Christian Wood and go out and get somebody or convert Koloko, who I think they like, and I actually have liked a lot too.
I think there's some degree of three-headed monster too between Williams, Hayes, and Koloko in terms of, I think Koloko is the best rim protector out of the three. So ideally you don't throw him into a playoff game, but if there is a situation where, you have, and he's got a little bit more perimeter mobility than Mark Williams does. So I agree with you there that might be the route to go. And then there's always the Fultz, Dennis Smith Jr., that type of crowd.
Yeah. All right. I have to answer some super comments here, Pete. So if you want to peace out, you want to hang. All right. So we'll go ahead and hang. We have to play the super important sound, which I'm bummed I wasn't able to add to because there's no non-bleeped out version of Clay saying fuck Boston. But for the time being, here's the really important sound. All right, so to kick things off here with the super comments, here's JK Lobos writing, "Hey guys, have you heard anything about Mark's physical? There was a report Jared Greenberg walked back where he was talking about Mark Williams' back issues. He actually said that he misrepresented whatever information that he got there. Look, I'm not touching injuries anymore because there's too much information. There's too many voices who want certain spins on whatever. What I will say is Mark Williams has had back issues dating back to college. And then, you have Mark Williams who has played half of their games so far this year, let alone the number of games he's missed to this point. But I believe he's past his physical. He might even play here in a few hours. Pete, have you heard anything about Mark that you're nervous about? Any more nervous?
Not about his physical, right? In terms of the injury stuff, I know that there is a thought that he's had a couple of kind of one-off strange things. There's not as much concern about his injuries as there may seem to be if you just look at his games played. I suppose that's the best way I could put it.
Yep. All right. Triple J writes, been watching this duo for 6+ years. Love seeing y'all grown man go Lakers. Pete, I did another podcast the other day and this guy was like, yeah, I'm like 23 years old. I've been listening to you since I was 12. And I almost just like walked off the podcast.
It's like that one. I don't know if you've seen that video where it's like someone's trying to buy beer or something like that, or cigarettes or something. Yeah, it was like cigarettes or a lottery ticket. And it's like, oh no, you can't. And you're like, no, I was born in 2007. And it's like, oh man.
All right, next one here. John Drake writes, JJ needs to bring reverses and Rui off the bench for reverses and Rui off of the bench.
Let's decipher that. Reaves? I'm guessing that's Reaves.
Oh, Reaves. Yeah. And Rob needs to dig up a 3-and-D 2 guard to start and hope Larry Nance gets bought out. Look, I don't think he's going to, but if Larry Nance gets bought out, he is perfect to round out that Lakers front court. Guy who could stretch the floor from the corners, crashes hard, finishes at the rim, and is versatile defensively. Perfect. Actually, he's a free agent this summer. And I would love for the Lakers to use some of their mid-level on him. But as far as what do you think about bringing Rui off of the bench? Would you start, because of how much offensive firepower you already have, would you maybe start Dorian instead or Vando instead and consider Rui off of the bench?
I think it's going to end up with DFS starting. And I think that's probably the correct way to go. I also think that Rui has grown in a way and is growing that I don't want to take away the possibility that Rui's right about to really click alongside Luca and LeBron, because for all of the passing talent and all of that, you've got to be able to actually make the shot. And he's got a lot of talent there.
Yeah. On both at the rim and from three. So Sebastian writes, is there anyone who's a free agent this summer who fits the Max Christie archetype for the MLE? Well, that's where it becomes interesting to watch the Bruce Brown situation, because if he and the Pelicans don't figure out a contract beyond the one that he's currently on, he would become a free agent. And if you basically just add Bruce Brown as a free agent to this Lakers team, I've also talked a ton, written about this too, about LeBron potentially taking less this year so that the Lakers have access to their full MLE. And maybe you could actually split that up and bring in a couple players there. But Bruce Brown is the guy just off the top of my head who I think would be perfect to add to this team.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the archetype there.
George Santiago set the record straight. Pete was never a source. No. I've always told you guys.
I've gotten this a couple of times.
Yeah.
I've gotten this a couple of times, and I've been like, are you out of your goddamn mind? I love you, Anthony. Yeah. I'm not risking my job with the freaking Los Angeles Lakers to tell you some shit.
Right. Well, that's the thing, is that like I would never put you in a position to risk your job over that. Like that would make me slightly worse a friend than Rob Pelinka, Nico Harris.
That would be insane. No, I was not Anthony's source.
I did not rely on
anything at all.
All right, Lakers Sean, you guys should do playback together on Monday. I don't know. Maybe I haven't really done much playback. Are you liking playback?
I'm loving playback. I got my little community going and all that. So yeah.
Maybe I'll pop on and I'll just at the very least I'll bug Pete in the comment section. Logan Miziak, the Luka trade is a horrible trade for the Dallas franchise, but it's great for basketball fans. Luka is insane in the playoffs when healthy. I think that's true.
Yeah.
Don't have anything to add there.
I was real quick. I was on KOC's pod the other day, and he was arguing, and some people haven't. Maybe I look dumb on this, but he was like, I actually think maybe there's a chance that Dallas is going to be better than they were in the playoffs, after this trade. And I was like, my first reaction
why were they good last year?
Well, yeah, I mean, they were good for a number of reasons, and it's not just Luka, but my first reaction was sort of like a dog hearing his owners on the voice message, like sort of like confused by the premise of it all. And like without Luka, like I don't think people realize how good Luka Doncic is.
Yeah. They're different, obviously significantly better defensively when you swap out Luka for my money, the best defender of his era. But then it's such a step back offensively, we just saw Kyrie Irving pee down his leg in the finals. And it's hard for me to forget that. And he's going to be your primary initiator all the time now. That would make me a little nervous if I was a Dallas fan. BG the Kid, do other teams just target Luka consistently on defense? This is the thing that Luka's so big.
Bingo.
He's so big, but he's not big in the Gobert or even the Mark Williams way that we talked about earlier, to where like Zubac stepped out onto the perimeter against Austin and what Austin did to him is illegal in like 35 states. But Luka isn't that kind of a bad defender. Where I'm actually getting more nervous with Luka is like those possessions where he just stands still for like 15 seconds at the elbow, and the defense kind of has to swirl around him. It's fine if LeBron does that, but you can't have him and LeBron doing it at the same time. There
are going to be some Spider-Man meme defensive possessions between those two.
All right, everybody. That is going to do it here for this episode. Went longer than I should have with Pete. Apologies, Pete.
And I apologize. I live in a small place with dogs. I got my elderly parents with me. It's always a circus around here. So appreciate.
I'm being texted right now. I have to go lift Callie up into the car because we're taking her to my in-laws. So like, it's just like we are. Remember we talked about like how old we feel? Like
we're that
we
age.
are literally like I have like pros. I have crow's feet over here and
dogs.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, thank you very much, Pete. I still have a ton more that I would love to talk to you about on this. We didn't really get to the immediate future of the Lakers, so all the more reasons to do this again sometime soon.
Had a blast.
Want to make sure, obviously, if you guys are tuned into this show, you guys definitely listen to and follow Pete's show, LFR, the LFR Pod, Laker Film Room Pod. If you aren't, Pete and Darius are the best. I just love those two dudes. They do great work. I've been listening to you guys a ton lately because like I'm at that. Here's how excited I am about the Luka era. I'm listening to Lakers content. I don't do that. Like I'm normally the guy who works. Yeah. I work at like a pizza place and I'm not interested in eating pizza when I go out. Mm-hmm. Like I'm so excited for the Luka era that I'm listening to your guys' show. I listened to Trevor the other day, and then I'll check out Tim. And Lakers Sex Pod every so often. Raj and Vinay do Lakers Detailed. Yep. And I'm just every so often, I'm just like, yeah, I just want Lakers content right now because I can't believe this is real. And I feel like we're all in the same boat. Yep. So can't wait till it actually is real and Luka's on the court. But yeah, until then, and until the next time you guys hear from us, I'm Anthony Irwin. That was Pete Zayas. This has been the Lakers Lounge podcast. Subscribe, like, review, all of that good stuff. Have a great rest of your weekend. Make somebody else's, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one, everybody.